It doesn't, does it? If you go that way, you're not going to actually get the result of going that way. So, and we said that Vedic knowledge is like cow dung. You know, is that what we said? Vedic knowledge is like cow dung. We said that, cow dung is pure. And use it in India for purifying places and use it for medicine. People, drink, the water. And has a curing effect. But if you try to do that with other kinds of dung, it wouldn't have the same. So although it seems contradictory, it actually works. So with that understanding, we can accept the Vedas. First, that we have the effect. Let's accept something descending. And I don't have to actually accept it if it doesn't work. We put it into practice, and if it works, then we've not lost anything. Yeah. So we'll go on to the next one, which is that these are conversations by Prabhupada at Conway Hall in London when he first came there. The original 6 devotees who came, they invited him and they set up a program at Conway Hall. We did a series of lectures. And what happened at those lectures, the first lecture, the place was full. In the next lecture, not so full. The next lecture, not so full. Not so full. And eventually, there was less and less people coming. Because people are just not interested in, this sort of thing. It's difficult for them to actually listen. So we're fortunate that at least we can listen for half an hour a week. Is that right? That's good. Because some of it sticks. It may not have an effect straight away, but in due course of time, it all amalgamates and builds up, and a picture starts to appear. And the little hooks. You know what a hook? When you want to actually catch a fish, you put the hook in the water with some bait, a worm or something. And so, we're creating little hooks of knowledge by which at some point it'll actually, catch us. So we're going on to the next point. This is the first verse in the Upanishad, and it's actually the invocation. So this invocation's explaining what the absolute truth is. What does absolute truth mean?
There's nothing higher.
There's nothing higher.
Something that cannot be contradicted by any other.
Something
that cannot be contradicted by any other argument.
It's the ultimate one. Yeah. Absolute means in all time and place, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Absolute. There's nothing beyond that. It's the final truth. So or you could say, what you said is paratattva, the highest truth. But the absolute truth is actually more absolute than paratattva. So, Om Purnam Adah Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. You want to recite that together? Om Purnam Adah Purnamidam
Om Purnam Adah Purnamidam
Purnat Purnam Udachyate
Purnam Purnam Udachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya
Purnasya Purnamadaya
Purnam Eva Vashishyate
Purnam Eva Vashishyate.
Om complete whole.
Complete whole.
Purnam perfectly complete.
Perfectly complete.
Adaha
That.
Purnam perfectly complete.
Perfectly complete.
Idam is phenomenal world.
This phenomenal world.
Purnat
Purnasya
of the complete all.
complete all.
Purnam
Purnam
completely all.
completely all.
Adaya
Arya
having been taken away.
having been taken away.
Purnam
Purnam
complete balance.
completely balanced.
Eva
Eva
even.
even
Avashishyate
avashishyate
remaining.
remaining.
Would you like to read? Translate.
The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because He is completely perfect, all emanations from Him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself, because He is the complete whole. Even though so many complete units emanate from Him, He remains the complete balance.
So, so then I take something away, it remains complete. Difficult to understand, isn't it? Let's read the purport. You can read the first paragraph.
The complete whole, or the supreme absolute truth, is the complete personality of our Godhead. Realization of impersonal Brahman, or the Paramatma, the Supersoul, is incomplete realization of the absolute complete. The supreme personality of Godhead is Sachidananda Vigraha. Realization of impersonal Brahman is realization of his Sat feature, or his aspect of eternity. And Paramatma realization is realization of his Sat and Chit features, his aspects of eternity and knowledge. But realization of the personality of Godhead is realization of all the transcendental features, Sat, Chit and Ananda, bliss. When one realizes the Supreme Person, he realizes the aspect of the Absolute Truth in the completeness. Vigraha means form, thus the complete whole is not formless. If he were formless, or if he were less than his creation in any other way, he could not be complete. The complete whole must contain everything both within and beyond our experience, otherwise he cannot be complete.
So, when you meet people and you speak to them, the easiest way to do that is usually when you're distributing some books. And some people take an interest and start asking questions. And in Georgia, it's a religious country, it's a Christian country. And people are staunch Christians. And 90% of people, if not more, will say, do you believe in God? Of course. They'll say. They say, why are you asking such a question? And then you'll say, do you believe God's a person? They'll have a thing. You know what I mean? And someone said, yes, and someone, I don't know. So it's not clear what God is, whether God's an energy or whether he's a person. And so here this answers the question that if you're a person, everything that, in creation must also have the origin must have personality, is that right? And so, they accept that, most people. That's logical, So that's one way we can actually argue that the origin of everything cannot be without anything else in the creation has everything else. Otherwise he cannot be the complete, he's incomplete. So we'll read more about what incomplete and complete means in relation to different things now. To this material creation, to the individual person completeness, and to self-realization completeness also. So, you want to read? Read as loud as you can. Oh, so that everybody can hear.
The complete whole, the personality of Godhead has immense potencies, all of which are as complete as He is. Thus, this phenomenal world is also complete in itself. The 24 elements of which this material universe is a temporary manifestation are arranged to produce everything necessary for the maintenance and subsistence of this universe. No other unit in the universe need make an extraneous effort to try to maintain the universe. The universe functions on its own time scale, which is fixed by the energy of the complete whole, and when that schedule is completed, this temporary manifestation will be annihilated by the complete arrangement of the complete whole.
Okay, so that's clear. You're supposed to speak English?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay. Because there's another language going on.
Yeah, no. We were there.
Reading from Upanishad, it's the first Upanishad.
Okay. Could I check it in internet?
Yes.
So this is one of the first books we read when we start to understand about something beyond matter, spiritual life. And it's explaining what the origin or the absolute truth is. And it's giving the example that it's complete. And you take something away from the complete, and it still remains complete. Like that. If you add something, it can't be changed. And whatever comes from the complete is complete. And this is giving examples now about this universe. It's complete. And the scientists, they tend to actually add things, and the leaders tend to add things and take things away. They start to change society and change the natural, or try to change the way people live. But it actually doesn't have a good effect in due course of time, because it causes so many problems, because it makes things incomplete. So if you use everything according to the guidance of the Vedic scriptures, which the Upanishad is one of them, then we use it properly. And so this universe has a particular function, and this planet has a particular function, and if this planet is used in such a way as ordained by the actual creator, then we don't need anything. Our founder Acharya said people talk about shortage of food, and some parts of the world people haven't got enough food to eat. He said this is all nonsense. He says there's enough to support 20 times the population of this earth, if they use it properly. But people are busy making money, so they keep things in scarcity, so the price goes up. It's all selfishness. There's more than enough. In fact, if Prabhupada had been honest, he could support 100 times more people than what we've done. I used to go to Russia. Russia's a big country. And sometimes I think an internal flight, it might be like 2,000 miles. And for 90% of that flight, it was just land. There was nothing but land. Can you imagine how many crops you could grow? You could nearly feed the whole universe. So it's like anything else about the universe is complete for giving everything we need to maintain our healthy life, for giving us inspiration to inquire about the higher nature, what the stars are. It's actually perfectly built like that. When we live with nature, we start to inquire about the wonders of nature. When we live in the city, we don't see the wonders. We may see them, but there's too many distractions. But when we have to live with nature according to the way we're supposed to live, then we realise we're very dependent on a higher energy, if you want to call it higher energy. But things are being provided and they're working wonderfully. And if we don't mess about with them, they carry on working wonderfully. It said in the Vedic times, they would subsist on milk You know, I was asked a question yesterday when I was distributing books. Why do they treat the cows so reverentially? And I was saying that, you know, the cows providing everything for us. There's millions of cows and they'll live in so many different cities. They'll live in the very hot countries, they'll live in the very cold countries, they'll live on the mountains, in the valleys. The cow's always ready available to give its milk. And from that milk we can get all the nourishment we want to keep this body together. On that alone. And then the land's producing so many vegetables. Where did I go to that? I was diverted a little bit there. We were talking about the universe, weren't we?
Yeah.
You were talking about the produce, how there's enough produce
Yeah.
in the world.
So, yeah, we live with nature and nature looks after us. And now we've got an imbalance in nature, but nobody's any the better off. Can we eat more than, our founder says, can we eat more than 4 chapatis?
4.
You know,
Yes.
you can only eat so much. We can't get any more satisfaction out of this body, no matter what we do. You know, people used to walk maybe 2 miles to get their, you know, water or milk or groceries or whatever they wanted. And now, you know, they're driving 200 miles in a car at 70 miles an hour. Mostly it's in a traffic jam, especially in Tbilisi. You know, we can show we're not going any faster. Any other things which the universe, we can see that it's complete, or the world we live in. You know, the tide comes in. You know, the tide never goes beyond its brink. It comes in exactly at the same place every time. And yet you see the ocean, have anybody been to the seaside? When you first get a glimpse of the ocean, you go, wow, it's like up there, isn't it? It's huge, and you just think, you know, one little ripple, and it's actually flooded the whole land. But it never goes beyond its brink. Why? Because Krishna says you shouldn't go beyond your brink. Okay. This planet, it's in orbit. The scientists calculate if it goes 1 degree nearer the sun, everybody will be frazzled. It will burn everybody. If it goes 1 degree away from it, everybody will be frozen. It's so, you know, finely tuned. Okay, so short one.
All facilities are given to the small complete units, namely the living beings, to enable them to realize the complete whole. All forms of incompleteness are experienced due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. The human form of life is a complete manifestation of the consciousness of living beings, and it is obtained after evolving through 84 lakh species.
8 million forms of power.
84 million.
In the cycle of birth and death. If in this human life of full consciousness, the living entity does not realize his completeness in relation to the complete whole, he loses the chance to realize his completeness and is again put into evolutionary cycle by the law of material nature. Because
So this body, this human body, is perfect. We might say we've got a spot here, or a tooth missing here, or so many imperfections, but that doesn't matter. The actual human form of life is perfect for self-realization. We've got just enough intelligence to inquire about, you know, what am I doing? Why are things so difficult? Why do I have to die? And all these questions mean that it's a perfect situation. The animals can't do that. They have to live a life in ignorance. But the human being starts to inquire about the nature of his existence. So it's perfect in that way. And if he decides to actually make a solution to life's problems, it's perfect for self-realization. So we don't have to add anything. We don't have to add you know, later on in the Upanishads we hear how it says that modern education is like a jewel on a cobra's head. What do you think to that?
Cool.
If the cobra came in here with a jewel on its head, you know, a big diamond worth, you know, £1 million, what would you do?
Well, surely you would just kill it and take the jewel. Logically.
Like,
You think you can kill a cobra?
Not me.
You know, you may think, maybe I can get that jewel, but it's not worth trying.
yeah.
It looks very nice, but it's not worth it. So modern education is like that. It looks very nice, but when we absorb ourselves in that alone, we just lose the plot. We forget about spiritual life. So we don't need so much material education. The real need is spiritual education. Because then when we understand the goal of life, then our work is already set out. We know what we have to do. When we know the goal of life, we don't become greedy. We understand that we can't actually, you know, enjoy more than what we're due to enjoy. Like we're saying, you can only eat so much food. So one becomes more peaceful, one starts to work in the mode of goodness. And mode of goodness means satisfaction, happiness. Has anybody had that experience? That, you know, if you're not so greedy after something, you feel peaceful. And as soon as you actually aspire for something really strongly, you become so disturbed, don't you? And when you get it, what happens?
Disappointment.
Eh?
Disappointment eventually.
Yeah, we become disappointed after some time. And then we want more. And more. And the fever starts to grow. Okay, so we're going on to the next. Any points on the human form of life? How it's complete? Any other ways it's complete?
Digestive system. Digestive system.
Yeah, I mean, digestive system. We don't have to know how it works, do we? We just have to keep putting things in there, and it works automatically. But you know, sometimes we may actually add some additives like that. If we get a little bit out of sorts.
The brain. Brain.
Yeah. I've got one point here. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that disease in the body. What causes disease in the body?
Imbalance.
Eh?
Imbalance.
You should know. It's what?
Imbalance in anything.
Imbalance. What causes that imbalance?
Improper food.
Too much food, not
Too
enough
little.
food, wrong kind of food. And our founder Sri Prabhupada says, this is true. He says, but the biggest cause of disease is a lack of regulation in life. If your life's regulated, then you're peaceful. When it's not regulated, it disturbs your mind. So simple living means high thinking. Who's next to read?
I don't think I have any more stuff.
You can take it.
Yes. That's been joking.
Okay.
This is
Because we don't know that there is a complete arrangement in nature for our maintenance, we make efforts to utilize the resources of nature to create so-called complete life of sense enjoyment. Because the living entity cannot enjoy the life of the senses without being devoted with the complete whole, the misleading life of sense enjoyment is illusion. The hand of a body is a complete unit only as long as it is attached to the complete body. When the hand is severed from the body, it may appear like a hand, but it actually has none of the potencies of a hand. Similarly, living beings are part and parcel of the complete whole, and if they are severed from the complete whole, the illusory representation of completeness cannot fully satisfy them. The completeness of human life can be realized only when one engages in the service of complete whole. All services in this world, whether social, political, communal, international, or even interplanetary, will remain incomplete until they are devoted with the complete whole. When everything is devoted with the complete whole, the attached parts and parcels also become complete in themselves.
Yeah, so the example of the hand is a very good one.
Example of hand was right on point.
Yeah?
The example of the hand which you were talking about, I think that was right on point.
Yeah. So just like the hand, this part of the body, every individual living entity is actually connected to, or part and parcel of God. We're the same in quality. We're not the same in quantity, but we're the same in quality. And the nice example is given in the Bhagavatam that it's just like the whole, if we feed the body, we feed the stomach, which is the centre of all our activity, then all the body becomes nourished. So if we render service to the source of all energy, Krishna or God, then we all become satisfied. If we try to put food in the ear, it won't work. You become dead. Put it in the eye. But that's what people are doing. They're not actually understanding that everything's created for a certain purpose. If it's used for that purpose, then they'll feel, nourished. And that purpose is to satisfy the origin of everything. The origin of everything has a right to be satisfied by our activities. He doesn't have to. He's already self-sufficient. But for our benefit, he reciprocates with us. He says the absolute truth is Swarat. He's completely independent. He doesn't need anything to satisfy him. He doesn't need anything to sustain him. He can exist eternally in full satisfaction. We can't. Like a fire is very powerful and it'll maintain, but if a spark comes out of the fire, very shortly it'll just extinguish. So it's explained we're like sparks who've come out of the fire. And so this process of devotional life is to put us back in the fire. Have you been to a centre? I've seen you before, haven't I?
Yeah, it's our second time here actually.
Yeah.
We've seen you last time.
Last time. You came for the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. So any questions or comments?
I have a question, Mohammed.
Yeah?
So, if everything is perfect, then what is imperfectness? Or how can we define that is not perfect? How can something can be imperfect? What is that mean? Imperfectness. How do we define imperfectness?
Well, on Puranam, it means that everything's complete. And when something's complete, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
If it's incomplete, it's not perfect. Is it? It's like, you get a perfect... What can you say? What, something perfect? An example.
For example, computer. No?
No, I'm thinking of something simple like...
golf ball.
Eh?
Golf ball.
Yeah, you get a perfect golf ball. I think, wow, look at that. It's perfectly round, it's got dimples, which is just it's not, it's got Slazenger written across it. And then, somebody hit it and it's a break. It's got a big chunk out of it. It's not perfect anymore. So when it's whole, it's actually perfect. So when we're whole, we're perfect. And we can only be whole when we're connected to the origin, to the whole. Because we're part and parcel of that. Like the hand, if it's disconnected, it becomes inoperable, you can't use it. So it's not perfect anymore. So when we're connected to the Supreme Lord, then we become perfect. Just like the hands serving the body, we render devotional service to Krishna, then it's a perfect activity because he's the creator of everything. And actually we'll feel satisfaction. We won't want anything, we'll be so satisfied. That's perfect. Oh, that's a real understanding of perfection. You say when we achieve perfection, don't we? Perfection means we've no other material desires anymore. We're perfect in our spiritual nature. We're actually doing what we're designed for. When you use a thing for what it's designed for, it works. When you try to use it for another purpose, it breaks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to mantra 1. So mantra 1, this will explain about, now we've understood what's complete. Now, what is the controller of everything? What is the controller of everything in this world? It's complete, but what is controlling? So this is called Ishavashyam. Ishavashyam idam sarvam yat kincha chikacham jagat jena chakchena bunjita mavidaha shasviddanam. What's the read?
So, Isha, by the Lord.
No, just read this translation.
Okay. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Purport.
Okay, read the first paragraph.
Yes. Vedic knowledge is infallible because it's come down through the perfect disciplic succession of spiritual masters, beginning within the Lord himself. Since he spoke the first word of Vedic knowledge, the source of his knowledge is transcendental. The words spoken by the Lord are called Apurva Sheva, which indicates that they are not delivered by any mundane person. A living being who lives in the mundane world has 4 defects. First, he is certain to commit mistake. Second, he is subject to illusion. Third, he has a propensity to cheat others. And fourth, his senses are imperfect. No one with these 4 imperfections can deliver perfect knowledge. The Vedas are not produced by such an imperfect creature. Vedic knowledge was originally imparted by the Lord into the heart of Brahma, the first created living being, and Brahma in his turn disseminated this knowledge to his son and disciples, who have handed it down through history.
So that's disciplic succession. So Brahma is the head of our, what they call Parampara, or disciplic succession. And if we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Srimad Bhagavatam it explains this conversation that took place between Lord Brahma, the creator of the living entities within the universe. He's called the secondary creator, and the primary creator, Krishna. At the beginning of creation, he actually had to get the understanding of how to create living entities within the universe, diversity. And so he spoke to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he gave him direction how he could do it. So then, Brahma, then we are in the Bible how Adam, from his side here, came Eve. So from Brahma, he's called self-born, he wasn't a female. From his body came Manu, the father of mankind. And from his body also came Satarupa, his wife. So from from Lord Brahma came female and male, the same thing. And then he spoke to Manu, and he also produced other sons called Narada Kumaras. And so he particularly enlightened Narada Muni in his science of devotional life. And then Narada informed Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva informed Madhava. Okay. Would you like to read it next?
Since the Lord is the Purna, all perfect, there is no possibility of his being subjected to the laws of martial nature which he controls. However, both the living entities and the inanimate objects are controlled by the laws of nature and ultimately by the Lord's potency. This Upanishad is part of the Yajurveda. Consequently, it contains information concerning the proprietorship of all things existing within the universe.
Okay.
The Lord's
Wait a minute. Okay, so next one. Well, I've not read yet.
The Lord's
Let somebody else, let's pass it on.
We've not read yet.
Have you read already?
The Lord's proprietorship over everything within the universe is confirmed in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 7.4 to 7.5, where para and apara prakriti are discussed. The elements of nature, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego, all belong to the Lord's inferior material energy, apara prakriti, whereas the living being, the organic energy, is his superior energy, para prakriti. Both of these prakritis or energies are emanations from the Lord, and ultimately he is the controller of everything that exists. There is nothing in the universe that does not belong to either the para or the apara prakriti. Therefore, everything is the property of the Supreme Being.
And so there's two energies. There's one original energy, there's Krishna, and his energy is like we have energy, we do things with our energy. So he's got one primary energy, and that energy is actually becomes many different energies. Parasya Shakti Vividaya Surite, Svabhika Gana Balakriyata, and they actually act independently by his will. Just like electricity is one energy, right? And so, but what can you do with it? You can actually cool things, you can heat things, you can make things run, you can illuminate. So energy can be used. So Krishna's energy is like that. And we're one of the energies. The living energy, like the soul, is called Paraprakriti. Prakriti means inferior energy. Para, the energy, the Supreme Lord is he's not Prakriti, he's Purusha. Purusha means enjoyer. And everybody else are actually enjoyed. It's parts and parcels. So they're called Prakriti. So, but there's two types of Prakriti. One is this dull matter, inanimate things, which don't actually seem to have life. They're called apara prakriti, the lower nature. And we, living entities, the soul within the body, is called para prakriti. We're actually superior. But this body is made up of apara and para. The external is actually dull matter. It's made up of just elements. So it's called apara. And you know, when the soul leaves, when the superior energy leaves this body, then the apara prakriti becomes, you know, dust or merged with the earth. So there's only those two energies, ultimately. But many intermediate energies are working also, which we can talk about later. Well, anybody?
Read, yeah.
Because the Supreme Being, the absolute personality of Godhead, is the complete person. He has completely perfect intelligence to adjust everything by means of his different potencies. The Supreme Being is often compared to a fire, and everything organic or inorganic is compared to the heat and light of that fire. Just as fire distributes energy in the form of heat and light, the Lord displays his energy in different ways. He thus remains the ultimate controller, sustainer and dictator of everything. He is the possessor of all potencies, the knower of everything and the benefactor of everyone. He is full of inconceivable opulence, power, fame, beauty, knowledge and renunciation.
So we'll hear more about these. He's full of inconceivable opulence, power, fame, beauty, knowledge and renunciation. These are the 6 attractive qualities in this world. Everybody likes to look at something beautiful. Everybody's attracted to somebody who's rich, opulent, somebody who's powerful, somebody who's got knowledge. They're attractive features, aren't they? And fame. We're all attracted to fame, power. So these things exist in completeness in the Supreme Lord. And everybody in this world, if we can understand that, if we see somebody who's really beautiful, we can become Krishna conscious. We can think that's just a fragment of Krishna's beauty. So, how beautiful is Krishna?
The Lord is the source of our completeness, but who is the source of incompleteness?
He is. Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, the Lord is the source of all completeness that is here, but the incompleteness also exists. So who is the source of incompleteness that exists?
Incompleteness means that we don't actually recognize what completeness is. If we don't recognize what completeness is, we have incomplete knowledge, and the things that we do will be, incomplete in proper understanding, and the result will be incomplete. So it's not that Krishna's incomplete in that respect. It's a lack of understanding, that's all. It's called ignorance. And the first thing that's created in this universe by Lord Brahma is ignorance. He creates ignorance which covers anybody who comes into this world. It covers their proper understanding, their complete knowledge of who they are and who Krishna is. And by this ignorance then we can start to perform activities of an ignorant nature, of an incomplete nature, in forgetfulness of the reality. So it's like light. You can say light and darkness. Darkness exists in Krishna. There's no darkness in Krishna. He's full of light. He's called Satchitankalpa. He's full of effulgence, full of energy. But if we turn our back up to from the light, we're in darkness. That's all. If we look away from the light, that's darkness. So darkness is, a result of the light. So incompleteness is a result of completeness. We've not read yet. Have you read? You read so much.
One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that except for the Lord, no one is a proprietor of anything. One should accept only those things that are set aside by the Lord as his quota. The cow, for instance, gives milk, but she does not drink that milk. She eats grass and straw, and her milk is designated as food for human beings. Such is the arrangement of the Lord. Thus, we should be satisfied with those things He has kindly set aside for us, and we should always consider to whom those things we possess actually belong.
Take, for example, our dwelling, which is made of earth, wood, stone, iron, cement, and so many other material things. If we think in terms of Sri Upanishad, we must know that we do not produce any of these buildings very much ourselves. We can simply put them together and transform them into different things of our own. A laborer cannot claim to be a proprietor of anything just because he has worked hard to make it.
So that's what people are doing as well. They're manipulating the energy and they think they're the controller and the owner of that. But they're not. The ingredients are supplied, so otherwise they pick it up. Now, Prabhupada was once in Mayapur and he was visited by some Indian gentlemen, some businessmen, and one of them, he says, "What do you do?" He says, "I make glass." He says, "How do you make glass?" He says, "From sand." He said, "Where do you get the sand from? Where does the sand come from?" And he looked and said, "God." He says, "You're a thief." So like that, everything's, the ingredients are provided. Okay. So I'll read a little bit. Take, for example, our dwelling, which is made of earth. Did you read this?
The other part, next paragraph.
In modern society, there is always a great quarrel between the labourers and the capitalists. This quarrel has taken an international shape, and the world is in danger. Men face one another in enmity and snarl just like cats and dogs. Sri Upanishads cannot give advice to the cats and dogs, but it can deliver the message of Godhead to man through the bona fide acharyas, holy teachers. The human race should take the Vedic wisdom of Sri Upanishad and not quarrel over material possessions. One must be satisfied with whatever privileges are given to him by the mercy of the Lord. There can be no peace if the communists or capitalists or any other party claims proprietorship over the resources of nature, which are entirely the property of the Lord. The capitalists cannot curb the communists simply by political manoeuvring, nor can the communists defeat the capitalists simply by fighting for stolen bread. If they do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Personality of God, all the property they claim to be their own is stolen. Consequently, they will be liable to punishment by the laws of nature. Nuclear bombs are in the hands of both communists and capitalists, and if both do not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Lord, it is certain that these bombs will be ultimately ruin both parties. Thus, in order to save themselves from and bring peace to the world, both parties must follow the instructions of the Upanishad. So political manoeuvres, we know what that means, don't we? We organise things so that we outmanoeuvre the other side. So capitalists are always wheeling and dealing. And the communists, what does it mean? It says that nor can the communists defeat the capitalists simply by fighting for stolen bread. What does that mean?
Capitalists are after the money, And since they're taking the money of the communists, according to the communist ideology, everybody should have equal shares. And that's why they're fighting for the stolen bread.
Fighting for the
Stolen bread.
what?
Stolen bread.
Oh, stolen bread. Yeah, the communists, the socialists, or the workers, they always want more from the capitalists, don't they? The capitalists are actually have got the industry, and they're employing the socialists and the workers, and they always want more. But you know, the capitalists have stolen what they've got, as it's just said. It's actually stolen from the Supreme Lord, and you know, the communists or the socialists are fighting for what they've got. So that's true. Okay. So how would they both benefit if they both realise that, well, wait a minute, it doesn't belong to me. And you know, I'll give you an example, Charlie. It's like, has anybody seen any old architecture? You know, just quite often I spend a lot of time in the temple in Manchester. It's a small temple. But I just walk across the road is a school. It must be, you know, 150 years old or something like that. And you go down to the front of the school, and on the front it's got these. It's really great architecture. You know, they've got these artisans, different people from 150 years ago performing different kinds of work. I thought, wow, it must have come ages to actually sculpture that and stick them on there so they'd stay. And then build all the, you know, the windows have got inlaid gold, and not gold, inlaid lead, all individual, they're coloured. And then you just go down the corner to a newly built flat. You know, it's like a bit of chipboard, and it's actually hope, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I just drove from the temple one day, I drove up the road, and then I saw these Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, and there were hundreds of them, and they've got this pile of you know, boards and bricks and so many things. And then I came back in the evening and then put the whole thing up in a day. DIY. So, you know, but why is that? Because it is a cost. You know, it's not that way that people are satisfied anymore to be a good craftsman and do the work and be satisfied that they get enough wages to eat, they get enough wages to, you know, the bare necessities of life. It's simple life to satisfy them. But then, you know, unless we have something to actually, and usually they're actually satisfied because their life is centered around simple living, high thinking, and that high thinking makes them religious. And they know they're going for the highest goal of life, and therefore they don't want anything else. But when we don't have that highest goal in view, we'll go for other goals, land, money, wealth, so many things. And therefore, you know, when we start to do that, there's competition. And therefore, when there's competition, we've got to do things at a lower cost, at, you know, at half the time, like that. And so then things all sort of wind down. No time. Okay.
Human beings are not meant to quarrel like cats and dogs. We must be intelligent enough to realize the importance and aim of human life. The Vedic literature is meant for humanity and not for cats and dogs. Cats and dogs can kill other animals for food without incurring sin, but if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste buds, he is responsible for breaking the laws of nature. Consequently, he must be punished.
You know, the Prabhupada is pretty direct, isn't he? If you went to somebody who would call them a dog or a cat, you know, they wouldn't be very happy, would they? Just calling everybody a cat and a dog. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
If you called someone a dog, they'd probably smack you across the face.
The standard of life for human beings cannot be applied to animals. The tiger does not eat rice and wheat or milk, drink cow's milk, because he has been given food in the shape of animal flesh. Among the many animals and birds, some are vegetarian and others are carnivorous. Carnivores. But none of them transgress the laws of nature, which have been ordained by the will of the Lord. Animals, birds, reptiles, and other lower life forms strictly adhere to the laws of nature. Therefore, there is no question of sin for them, nor are the Vedic instructions meant for them. Human life alone is a life of responsibility.
Yeah, that's a specific difference. Animals are controlled by the particular mind and body they have. They can't go outside that, so naturally they work like that, but we have choices. And so, you know, human life means that we've got to be guided how to make the right choices.
It is wrong, however, to think that simply by becoming a vegetarian one can avoid transgressing the laws of nature. Vegetables also have life, and while it is nature's law that one living being is meant to feed on another, for human beings the point to recognize the Supreme Lord. Thus, one should not be proud of being a strict vegetarian. Animals do not have developed consciousness by which to recognize the Lord, but human beings is sufficiently intelligent to take lessons from the Vedic literature, and thereby know how the law of nature are working, and derive profit out of such knowledge. If a man neglects the instruction of the Vedic literature, his life becomes very risky. A human being is therefore required to recognize the authority of the Supreme Lord and become his devotee. He must offer everything for the Lord's service and partake only of the remnants of food offered to the Lord. This will enable him to discharge his duty properly. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, stroke 26, the Lord directly states that he accepts vegetarian food from the hands of a pure devotee. Therefore, a human being should not only become a strict vegetarian, but should also become a devotee of the Lord. Offer the Lord all his food and then partake of such prasadam or the mercy of God. Only those who act in this way can properly discharge the duty of human life. Those who do not offer their food to the Lord eat nothing but sin and subject themselves to various types of distress, which are the results of sin, written in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, Shloka 30.
Okay. So this is an important point. Sometimes you wonder, why does spiritual life start with the tongue? Anybody thought about that?
Regulation.
Why does it start with the tongue? Why not with the ear? The ear, don't we? But, it's like the tongue. You see these big ocean-going liners? It's like maybe 500-600 yards long. They're huge, aren't they? And it takes them probably about 5 miles to stop it. It's so heavy, and yet they manoeuvre it, don't they? How do they manoeuvre such a big thing? How do they manoeuvre it?
Move what?
Because
Big ocean-going liner,
It has side and front thrusters.
Right?
It has side and front bow control. So they just move the control and it moves either sideways or forward. depending on what they want to do.
It's like valves,
No, thrusters.
thrust. Well,
And then
what would they do on a sailing ship? A big sailing ship.
Just use the wind, and then when they don't want to go anymore, they drop the sail and it stops.
No, what's at the back?
Thruster.
The motor.
oar.
A rudder.
Yeah.
And how big's the rudder compared to the ship?
Small.
It's like, you know, it's minute, isn't it? Yeah, you turn that rudder just one way, little bit that way, and the whole ship. So similarly, the rudder for this body is a tongue. It's not, you get into so much trouble, you know. But it can also bring us so much glory. So you have to control this. And there's two ways. One is, you know, what you say, and also what you eat. Because what you eat is actually affects the consciousness, it affects the blood, and that affects the consciousness. And so, but when we eat food which is actually sanctified, which has been purified by offering it to the Supreme Lord, it actually purifies our mind and intelligence. And then when we vibrate the transcendental names of the Lord, or topics about him, it also purifies intelligence. Like that. Yogya shish stasino shanta munchite kava skildisma munchite agam papa yoga chanti atma karanat. He says that devotees of the Lord eat food which is first offered for sacrifice, and it frees them from all kinds of sinful reactions. Those who don't that, they become implicated in the sin of the food because it belongs to somebody else, and we're taking it without proper process. And this is actually the bottom line in society. Prabhupada said, you know, people cannot eat nuts and bolts. And he's talking about, you know, modern society is very much set around, you know, nuts and bolts, isn't it? Cars have got nuts and bolts, buildings, nuts and bolts. He says, but at the end of the day, if there's no rain, what can you do with your nuts and bolts? He says, so, there's a nice verse, it says, how's it going now? The one after that. Anyway, it says that all living entities subsist on food grains. And grains are born from rains. And rains are born from sacrifice. And sacrifice is born of performing one's prescribed work in life. This is a traditional way. He says, but nobody's performing any traditional sacrifice anymore. He says, so in this age, the sacrifice is to chant Hare Krishna. So if we chant Hare Krishna, then it pleases the Lord and He supplies our needs through the demigods. He says, so at the end of the day, you know, anybody who's not God conscious, at some point they'll have to eat nuts and bolts. If they so degrade.
The root of sin is deliberate disobedience of the laws of nature through disregarding the proprietorship of the Lord. Disobeying the laws of nature or the order of the Lord brings ruin to a human being. Conversely, one who is sober, who knows the laws of nature and who is not influenced by unnecessary attachment or aversion is sure to be recognized by the Lord and thus becomes eligible to go back to Godhead, back to eternal home.
Yes, so Ishavashyam. Ishavashyam principle means God-centered society, Ishavashyam. Isha means controller, which is Krishna. Avasyam, to follow the controller. So that's the first step in God realization, is to understand that nothing is mine. It's actually here before I come. It'll be here when I've gone. But the big illusion is that the most intelligent people on the planet, or the so-called most intelligent people, are fighting like
Cats and
dogs over this land that they're going to, you know, they must be in the 60s, most of them. In 20 years' time, they won't be here. It's a big illusion. So this is the ignorance that Lord Brahma creates. It's so powerful. It's the illusion. But if we start to actually perform this yajna, which has been given for this age, this chanting of the Maha Mantra, then very quickly our minds will become clear, and we'll be able to understand these concepts and have the the will and the strength to actually follow them. And then we'll see that we've been living a big lie, trying to fight so many people for so many things we want, and then lose everything at the end of it. And then if we're not careful, if we do the wrong things, then there's some reaction for it. Everything we do in this world is a reaction. So we don't want any reactions. We don't know what sort of reaction we're going to get, do we? But if we actually engage in devotional life, it's called akarma. Karma means to follow the rules of Shastra, to work given by God. Vikarma means not to follow the rules and act whimsically. Then that's a bad result. At least if we perform karma, we follow the scriptures, then we'll not suffer too much. But the best way is akarma. Don't perform karmic work. If we use things to satisfy the Supreme Lord, this is a Vashyam principle, there's no karma. It frees us from the law of karma. Anything else on that?
If somebody keeps on doing good karma, then would that release them from the cycle of birth and death? Or would
Good karma?
Yeah, if somebody is in the nature of the sattva guna, then would they be released from the cycle of birth and death still? Would they go back to the Godhead?
No, goodness, passion and ignorance are the three modes of nature which make in this world work and which are driving everybody's life. So Shastra is teaching us to perform activities which put us in the mode of goodness. But because we're not God conscious, there may be conducive activities to have a reasonably peaceful society and a peaceful life. We're still taking the property of the Lord. So we have to transcend that to pure goodness. Pure goodness means understanding what is actually good. And what is actually good is that nothing belongs to us. Everything belongs to Krishna. So we should follow his advice, how to use it. And if we use it as a service to him, it builds a relationship. If we want to form a relationship, we start to reciprocate with somebody. We'll give and take. And then that relationship grows. More give, more take. So this then Krishna is a person. Anybody can approach him with this attitude, just by understanding this one point. Let me give something to Krishna instead of trying to take all the time. And it works. We'll feel relief. And if we keep doing that, then there's no reaction, because if you go in somebody's garden and start taking their fruit, the reaction is that you could be, in trouble. But if you go in and you ask his permission and say, what do you want me to do with it? And you follow his advice, then he'll probably give you some fruit anyway. But there's no reaction. So everything in this world is like that. It's a passion. But we can come to the mode, we should live in the mode of goodness. As a Hare Krishna devotees, we're trying to live in the mode of goodness. Not follow the laws by which we don't hurt anybody. But from that, it's very easy to step up to the mode of pure goodness.
Then why did Brahma create this ignorance?
Why did?
Brahma created this ignorance.
It's forgetfulness. The material world is the place where the living entities want to forget who's in charge, because they want to actually become a little bit of a leader and in charge. But you know, if you can always remember there's somebody who's actually in charge, it spoils it, doesn't it? You can't really get into it. But if you can actually forget who's actually in charge, then you can really get into trying to be in charge. And that's what's happening.
Is Krishna forgiven? Does he let go of small mistakes or even large ones?
Is Krishna what?
Forgiven.
Forgiven.
Forgiving.
Merciful,
Forgive.
like forgive your sins.
Does he let go of mistakes?
Yeah. We're all making so many mistakes. But you know, he doesn't see the activity, he sees the intention behind it. Just like a child will come up to the parents or to somebody and he's got a half-chewed sweet and they'll give it to them as a gift, you know. You don't really want it, but because he's actually offering something, you accept it, don't you? So even though we're full of faults and our service may be faulty, Krishna accepts the essence. He knows that if we carry on performing that activity, will it actually improve? So we shouldn't be caught up in trying to do everything perfect straight away. This is our disease. But we, you know, everything we take to, we want to be the best, don't we? Is it? We taught to be like that at school, competition. If you do it, you've got to become the best. So when we take to devotional service, we've got to become the best, right? But do everything perfectly. But we should understand that, you know, it doesn't matter whether we do it perfectly or not if we try. We try to develop a proper attitude. You know, Krishna sees the heart. What's the motivation behind it? And that's the hardest thing to change, isn't it? We're driven by the heart from so many impressions in the heart from our past. And you know, this process is actually purifying them out. Gradually. But it works, no? It actually works. Yeah.
Competition or cooperation. That's what Prabhupada used to say, right?
Cooperation, yeah.
Competition.
Yeah.
Competition or cooperation.
Yeah, cooperation was needed. Hey, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Your Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Lord Mr. Maharaj ki
Jai.
I think have they finished down there?
Yes. Prasadam.
Thank you, Maharaj. It was wonderful.